Most people think a building dies when they lock the front door for the last time. It doesn't. It dies when someone like me signs a form that says, occupancy, 0. My job title is longer on paper. Vacant Unit Coordinator, Portfolio Transition Division. What I really do is walk through old buildings with a jangling ring of keys, open every door, and make sure no one is still living in the places that are about to be sold, gutted, or knocked down. I don't do hauntings. I don't do legends. I do checklists. If the system says there are 80 units and 80 are vacant, the building is done. If it says 79, then we keep looking. This one kept saying 79. The building had already come up in a few of our internal emails. Fire consultants, risk managers, maintenance contractors. Everyone seemed quietly relieved that it was finally being retired from the portfolio. 20 floors, mid-rise, too much history. On my screen, under occupancy status, every unit had a clean line. Vacant. Key in office. Except one. Unit 1905. Status, active. Move out. No date. No forwarding address. Just a stubborn one preventing the whole building from being declared empty. I ran the report again. Same result. I called the property manager before my visit, out of habit. "Hi, this is Alex from Portfolio Transition," I said. "I'm scheduled for your vacancy walkthrough on Friday." There was a pause. "You're talking about the clearance before the sale?" he asked. His voice sounded like he'd been living on coffee and bad news for a while. "That's right," I said. "My sheet shows one active unit. 1905. On the other end, he let out a breath that was half laugh, half sigh. "Of course it does," he said. "Yeah, that's a system thing. She moved out months ago." "Then why is it still active?" I asked. "Ask the system," he said. "I've closed her on my side. The door is locked, the keys are in my drawer, and no one's paying rent. Your software just doesn't like round numbers." I heard papers shuffling. "The building is empty," he insisted. "You'll see." "I've heard that before. Empty, except for the mattress someone left in a corner. Empty, except for the guy who just needs another week." "We still have to check," I said. "I'll be there at 10. He sighed again. "Fine," he said. "I'll meet you in the lobby. And just so you know, the elevators are particular." He hung up before I could ask what that meant. Friday morning, the building looked like every other soon-to-be-sold tower I've walked. The lobby lights were on, but dimmer than usual. The big plant in the corner was starting to wilt. Half the mailboxes were open and empty, their little doors hanging ajar. At the front desk, the property manager waited with a folder and a coffee. He introduced himself as Harris. We shook hands. "You must be sick of this place by now," I said lightly. "You have no idea," he replied. He handed me a printed list of units with little check boxes next to each number. "Most of them are already tagged as cleared," he said. "You just need to verify they're still that way. Some doors stick. Some handles are weird. Don't trust Stair A after dark." He saw my raised eyebrow and forced a smile. "Sorry," he added. "Building joke." I clipped the checklist to my board. "Let's start from the top and work down," I said. "Easier to watch for stragglers." He nodded. "Elevators faster," he said. "Stairs are tiring." I made a note to check both. We rode the elevator to the 20th floor in mostly uncomfortable silence. The panel had buttons for 1 through 20. No missing numbers, no hidden switches. I'd seen enough older buildings with skipped floors to notice when one wasn't skipped. "Do you rent the top floor?" I asked as we rose. "We used to," Harris said. "Now it's mostly storage. It never stays leased for long. The elevator stopped. When the doors opened, the hallway was half lit and mostly empty. Every door had a little key tag taped over the keyhole. Some were labeled with yellow sticky notes, cleaned, inspected, clear. We moved quickly. I turned each key, opened each unit, stepped inside just far enough to see that it was truly empty. No beds. No chairs. No pets. No people. Just impressions in the carpet where furniture had once been. On the 19th floor, the air felt different when the doors opened. As if the building had exhaled something just before we stepped out. Harris watched my face. Someone told me once that 19.5 is where this building actually lives, he said. A joke, of course. Of course, I said. We walked the hallway. Unit 1901, open, empty. 1903, open, empty. The numbers were odd on one side, even on the other. I had walked enough halls to feel the pattern in my feet. 1905 was at the far end of the corridor. Its door looked like all the others. Same off-white paint. Same metal peephole. Same number plate. The only difference was the mailbox next to it. Every other box on the wall had been emptied and left open. This one was closed. The tiny metal label still bore a name. I recognized it from the occupancy report. The tenant Harris had insisted was gone. A faint rectangle where a newer label had once been stuck over an older one showed through the adhesive. Was she the last to move out? I asked. Second to last, he said. Last was a guy on 5. He actually left on time. He hesitated. She complained about the stairs, he added. About footsteps and a hallway that didn't match the floor count. She moved out after that. At least, I thought she did. He fished in his pocket for a ring of keys. This should be it, he said, selecting one. Before he could put it in the lock, I put my hand on the door handle and turned. It didn't move. Locked, as he said. Let's do the other floors first, I said. Save the trouble unit for last. He looked relieved. Fine by me, he said. I'll be in the office. Call me if any doors don't behave. I prefer walking alone once I get into a rhythm. It's easier to hear if anything is off. On the 18th floor, some units still had the faint smell of paint. On 17, someone had left a plastic hanger on a closet rod. I logged it, then took it down and dropped it into my bag. We're supposed to leave units truly empty. I checked in with Harris at the lobby every few floors. He gave me a small radio for safety, then returned to his paperwork. Any issues, he asked after I finished the 10th floor. Nothing that bites yet, I said. Careful with stair A if you use it between 19 and 20, he said, almost automatically. I gave him a look. It's an inside joke, he repeated. I wasn't sure he believed that. By early afternoon, every unit from the lobby to the 18th floor had been opened, checked, and marked clear. I had a small mental map of each hallway. Where the carpet dipped slightly. Where the exit signs hummed louder. On 18, near the stairwell door, I noticed a water stain on the ceiling. It spread in a ring, darker around the edges. Someone had drawn a tiny circle around it in pencil on the wall, like a target. Underneath, in small handwriting, someone had written, "Still here." I made a note and kept moving. When I got back to 19, the hallway felt longer than it had earlier. The light seemed a fraction dimmer. Or maybe it was just that I knew 1905 was waiting. I tried the other units first. 1902, 1904, 1906, 1908. All open. All empty. Only 1905 remained. Its door looked the same. The mailbox still shut. My radio crackled. "You done up there?" Harris's voice asked, Slightly distorted. Almost, I said. Last one. 1905. There was a pause. Do you want me to come up? He asked. Not necessary, I said. It's just a door. I clipped the radio back on my belt and stepped closer to 1905. I knocked, out of habit. Building management, I called. Final inspection. No answer. I waited the required 10 seconds, listening for any movement. Nothing. I took out the key Harris had given me and put it into the lock. It slid in, but when I turned it, the cylinder resisted. Old locks do that sometimes. They swell with humidity, or the pins stick. I put more pressure on it. For a moment, it felt like I was turning something much heavier than metal. Then it gave, with a small, reluctant click. The handle turned under my hand. I opened the door. The unit beyond was dark. The blinds were half closed. Enough light leaked in to show an empty living room. No furniture. No boxes. Just an outline on the carpet where a couch had once sat, and a rectangle where a rug had shielded the fibers from sun. I stepped inside. The air was cooler than the hallway, carrying the faint, stale smell of somewhere that hasn't been open in a while. Hello. I called, just to be sure. My voice sounded oddly muted. I walked through the unit. Bedroom, empty. Closet, empty. Bathroom, clean, no personal items. Kitchen, bare cabinets, unplugged fridge. I opened every door, checked every shelf. The apartment was as vacant as any I'd seen that day. I marked 1905 as clear on my sheet, signed my initials, and closed the door. The latch clicked with the soft, final sound of a unit being officially done. When I got back to the lobby, I told Harris. All units clear, I said. On paper, your building is empty. He looked like he wanted to believe me. Even 1905, he asked. Even that one, I said. Nothing there. He exhaled. Good, he said. Maybe the system will finally let it go. Back at my office that evening, I opened the portfolio dashboard. The building's line glowed in the list. Occupancy, 1 unit active. I frowned. I refreshed the page. Same. I clicked the detail window. Unit 1905. Status, active. Last activity, 3:14 a.m. The timestamp was from the previous night. Long before I'd set foot in the building. I pulled the unit log. It showed a series of automated entries. Door sensor, closed. Motion, minimal. Utilities, idle. Nothing remarkable. Except that the occupancy flag refused to drop. I tried overriding it manually. The system asked for my credentials. I entered them. Set unit 1905 to vacant, I typed. A warning popped up. Conflict with remote record. Proceed. Remote record? The building had been disconnected from most live systems already. Only the basic security and fire lines were still up. I hit yes. For a second, the number at the top of the screen flickered. Occupancy, 0 units active. Then it snapped back. 1 unit active. Unit 1905, status, active. A new log entry appeared as I watched. Occupancy flag restored by remote source. The source field was blank. I don't have authority to blame ghosts in internal IT tickets. So I logged a simple support request. Occupancy flag for Unit 1905 stuck as active despite confirmed vacancy. Please check. Then I wrote my own note on the building's transition file. Physical inspection confirms units empty. System anomaly persists on 1905. Does not affect sale timing but may impact data integrity. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed on my bedside table at 3:17 a.m. I don't set alarms for that time. Nothing good happens then. The notification was from our internal app. Alert, move out activity detected, Unit 1905. Half asleep, I opened it. The log entry was automatic. Key event recorded, front door open/close. Duration, 12 minutes. Motion, detected in living room, bedroom, hallway. Utilities had flickered on for a brief moment. A light circuit, then off. I stared at the timestamp. At that time, the building was locked, powered down to minimum, with only emergency electricity running. No one should have been inside. No one should have had a working key. In the comment field, the system had added a canned line. Assumed tenant move out completion. I lay awake until morning. The next day, I called Harris. Did anyone access the building around 3 in the morning? I asked without preamble. He groaned softly. Not officially, he said. I wasn't here. Night guard was here until we let him go last month. Since then, just remote monitoring. Any contractors given keys? I asked. Demolition firm is still bidding, he said. No one has a key yet except me, corporate, and the security vendor that checks alarms. I didn't like that answer. I'm coming back, I said. One more walk. He didn't argue. He just said, fine. But this time, I'm not going up with you. The building felt different now that I knew it was supposed to be dead. Most of the lights in the hallways were off. Only motion sensors woke them as I walked. The elevator creaked like it resented being used. I took it to 19 and stepped out. The hallway felt occupied, in the way an empty room sometimes does when you know someone has just left. The doors were all shut. Their little key tags still taped over the locks. 1905 looked exactly as before. Mailbox closed. Name label still there. I looked at my phone. No new alerts. I knocked anyway. Management, I called out of habit. Final inspection. Silence. I unlocked the door and opened it. The unit was dark. But this time, the air didn't feel stale. It smelled faintly of someone's soap, long diluted. Of dust recently disturbed. I flicked a light switch on the wall. Nothing happened. Of course not, most circuits were cut. The light seeping in through the blinds was enough to see by. At first glance, the unit was still empty. No furniture. No boxes. Then I noticed the floor. In the living room carpet, near the center, there were footprints. Not dirty, exactly. Just depressions in the fibers where someone had walked recently. They started near the door, crossed the room, and stopped in front of the blank wall opposite the window. There was no outlet there. No heater. Nothing but paint. I stepped beside them, careful not to overlap. When I turned to look back toward the hallway, a shape flickered in the doorway. For a second, I thought someone was standing there. A woman in a t-shirt and pajama pants, hair messy, holding up a phone as if recording. Then she wasn't there. Just the empty frame of the door. I knew that description from somewhere. From a line in an old report. From a still image in an internal email. A woman, barefoot, holding a smartphone in a hallway that shouldn't exist. My skin felt too tight. I backed out of the unit, leaving the footprints undisturbed. I closed the door carefully. The lock turned with a soft click. As I turned away, my phone buzzed. New event, Unit 1905. I opened the app. Key event recorded, front door close. Duration, 3 minutes. Occupancy status, active. At the bottom, a note had appeared automatically, as if appended by a script. Move out still in progress. On my way down, I ignored Harris's offer to ride the elevator. I took the stairs. Stair B was normal. Stair A felt like a bad idea, so of course I took it. Between 18 and 19, the air was colder. Between 19 and 20, there was, for just a moment, an extra half turn. I found myself on a landing I didn't remember seeing before. On the wall, a small, temporary floor plan had been taped. It was smudged, like someone had printed it on a cheap printer in a hurry. "You are here," said the little dot. Next to it, the label. Level 2021st. The stair symbol beside it pointed back down to 19, and sideways to a rectangle labeled Unit 1905, Mirror. My head throbbed. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the page was gone. Just bare concrete. The next landing up had its normal sign again. Level 20. No slash. No extra line. I walked the rest of the way down without counting. In my final report, I wrote what I could justify. Physical inspection confirms units vacant. System records show repeated automated move-out events for Unit 1905 at impossible hours, with occupancy flag resisting manual override. No evidence of unauthorized physical occupancy found. Recommend treating 1905 data as corrupted and manually archiving building as fully vacant. Then, against my better judgment, I added one more line, buried at the end. It is suggested that any future systems connected to this address avoid automated occupancy learning for Unit 1905 specifically. It sounded like a joke. It wasn't. A month later, the building left our portfolio. Sold, pending whatever the buyer wanted to do with it. The day the transfer was finalized, I checked the dashboard one last time. The building's line was gray now, no longer active. Occupancy. No units. No data. I almost closed the tab. Then, at the bottom of the screen, a small notification popped up. Archive record updated, Unit 1905. Out of habit, I clicked it. The archived file was simple. Status, closed. Last entry. Occupancy, 1. Remark, tenant never checked out. There was no name attached. No author. Just a timestamp. 3:14 a.m. Same minute as before. The note field allowed comments. For a long moment, my fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed. Building closed. No further inspections will be performed. If any occupancy flags appear after this date, treat them as noise. I hit save. The screen blinked. My comment disappeared. The last line reverted to tenant never checked out. I closed the file and, this time, I didn't open it again. I still don't believe in haunted buildings. I just believe that some units never learn how to be empty. And some doors keep a record of everyone who ever lived behind them. Even when the rest of the building is ready to be counted as zero. This story is a work of fiction, created purely for entertainment. Any resemblance to real people, buildings, or events is purely coincidental.